convoy comes under attack.
It's all a distraction. The news, politics, popular topics of conversation, social media, they all distract us from what matters. And what matters, that's kind of up to us to decide. What is really important? I'd say that's family, friends, community, the people around us, our day-to-day lives. Those are the things that matter. But then every day, the news is filled with international events that really have no effect on us whatsoever. And it really sucks when something terrible happens to people on the other side of the world. There's no value, there's no benefit to me knowing about that. All that it does is make me feel a little bit scared to think that something bad could happen. And sure, bad things can happen, but we don't probably hear about the bad things that we should actually be scared of on the television. We hear about the things that are sensationalized, the things that will get us to keep on watching. And when you're watching TV, when you're watching the news, when you're watching something on the internet, it's like, who's the customer here? Are you the customer or are you the product? And everyone always talks about how Facebook and social media, like the users or the watchers are the product, and that actually the customer is the advertiser. But that's always been the issue. That's always been the case. Television channels don't make TV shows to make you happy. They make TV shows so that there's something for you to watch, so that they can sell advertisers your time and your attention. So that's why TV and news exists, so that there's people to watch it, and then those people can get sold advertisements. So the other question to ask is, does the news cover what's important? Does it actually talk about what matters? Or does it talk about the things that are more likely to get people enraged and engaged in watching? Realistically, what's going to be on TV is going to be the kinds of things that you watch, that you get stuck paying attention to, because that is better for the advertisers. That's better for the customers, because the customers want to have engaged watching audiences. This all comes at the expense of truth. Truth doesn't necessarily sell, because the truth might be positive, the truth might make the world a better place, but there's no space for a better place when the target audience is advertisers, because advertisers crave, or they make more money when you're dissatisfied. When you're afraid and you're feeling bad about yourself, then you're more likely to buy stuff that you don't need. If you're happy and satisfied with the world that you live in, then there's no reason for you to buy stuff, because you don't need it. We use products to fill the emptiness inside of our lives. And so that's part of the incentive to why we're made to feel bad. Sometimes there are political motivations to cover certain events or to cover certain angles. There's always a reason why what we hear about it, because there is a motivation for somebody. There's some reason that we hear that. Maybe it's to distract us from something else that's going on in the world. Maybe it's to keep us watching. Maybe it's just for advertisers' money. But then there's other times too, maybe it's so that we can do things, or maybe it's so that we believe certain things about the world. Another possibility too is that the news is a certain way so that it frames our views, so it shifts the Overton window into a direction that is wanted for either, advertisers, politicians, governments. There's always some incentive, right? There's always someone who's going to have a benefit from you believing certain things. And so part of the reason why we hear the stories that we do, why we're so distracted by the television and social media, is because us being distracted and covering and focusing on those topics instead of the other things that are happening in the world, the things that really matter, the things that are happening around us, there's a benefit to that for someone. And it's not always clear who the benefit is for. But is it for you? Is it for me? Probably not. But then again, you have to come back to the question, who really owns the media? Who does the media exist for? It exists for the advertisers, and it exists for the media companies. And the media companies have purchased those sort of media products for a reason, because they have a story, they have an agenda, they have a narrative that they want to push, and they have purchased, or they control the media sources because that's what they want to do. And the easiest explanation is just to rely on the economics of it. The reason why the news is the way it is because we watch it and then we watch more ads, and that's better for advertisers. And that it could be as simple as that. It could be something else, but it's most likely just a matter of being of benefit to advertisers for us to have the kinds of distractions that we have when we watch the television or when we go onto social media. And you might be asking, but why? Why does someone do this? And again, like I said, the most obvious explanation is the advertisers, but there's always a benefit to somebody for the way that we understand the world, for the way that we make sense of things. And so that benefit is often for somebody else, the person who's sort of funding the products that we're consuming, the shows that we're watching. So there's always potentially an incentive, because if we feel a certain way, if we believe certain things about the world around us, then we're going to act in a way that is maybe predictable, maybe slightly expected. And so that might work out best for governments. It might work out best for advertisers, and it might just work out best for sort of the powers that be. But then again, you're like, what are we being distracted from? And I would say like the stuff that truly matters. Steven Pinker, a cognitive scientist, he talks about how actually these are probably the best times to have ever lived. This is the safest time. There's the least amount of crime. There's the least amount of like terrible, like, natural disasters. It's like, this is the best time of all of time to be alive. And yet when we watch the news, about 70% of the news, or at least international news, is all bad news. And so like, we have this like kind of warped, diluted view of reality. Like, we think that things are really bad, we think that things are really negative, we think there's lots of conflict, and those things exist. They're true, they're like a part of the world, but like on the grand scale of things, like this is the best time to be alive. And that's kind of what we're being distracted from. And so we sort of have this view about the world that is totally off the mark. We are stressed, we are worried, we're concerned about all the problems that are happening. But the reality is, that's not really the case. And, there's some debate, maybe over the last year that's changed a little bit. But like, the truth of the matter is that, things are probably a lot better than we think they are if we rely on the media, or if we rely on all the distractions to tell us how to look at the world and how to understand the world around us. And sure, there are lots of crazy things going on. Sure, there's lots of problems. But like, if you just go outside and you go for a walk and you see your neighbors, like, probably it's pretty peaceful. There's probably not much going on. There's probably not this like terrible world that we're led to believe exists. And I got my advantages here. I live in the suburbs and I'm kind of away from the city, but like, I think it's probably true for you as well. Just go for a walk and see how bad things aren't. But remember what Denzel Washington said: if you don't watch the news, you're uninformed. If you do watch the news, you're misinformed. So next time you turn on the TV, next time you go on the internet, ask yourself, what are you being distracted from? What is this taking your attention away from? What could you be doing instead? Do you think that it's all a big distraction? Let me know in the comments below. Click the like button and click subscribe if you're interested in learning about how to think but not being told what to think. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk next time. Goodbye.